Hey friends! Before we get started, we want to make a quick announcement from all of us at Infinite Red. This winter, we're doing something really special called winter releases. We're going to have 3 big open source releases between now and the end of the year as a way to say thank you to our open source community. We're kicking things off today. We have just released Ignite 9. This latest version is all about increasing Expo support and improving the developer experience. We talked about all the details in episode 276 with Frank Calise, so definitely listen to that. We'll put it in the show notes. Or just head to infinite.red/ignite. On to today's episode.
Welcome back to another episode of the React Native Radio Podcast. Brought to you by Bun Puns. I'm over this. I need something new in my life. Episode 280. Bun Intended. JavaScript's newest runtime meets React Native.
I heard you just got an air fryer, Mazen. How do you like it?
I love it. I feel like I haven't turned on the oven ever since we got it.
Yeah, when you get one, you pretty much use it for everything.
Yeah, it's also not healthy to have it because now everything is easy to make, unfortunately. So late night snacks are ready in an
makes
instant.
the things healthier that you make.
Well, true. It's not oil. Yeah.
You're frying it
There's
with
a
air.
plus.
It's in the name.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Our kids refer to it as the chicken nugget machine.
Yes. My kids have discovered that too. I actually discovered on mine, I bought one this summer as well. And because I'd heard like everybody saying, oh, I love my air fryer. And I'm like, yeah, how good could it be? And then I got one and I was like, okay, yeah, that's really nice. But mine has a bake setting. It has
Same. Toast.
a broil setting.
Oh, really?
Has all these other ones too. It's not just air fryer.
Yeah. It has like a bagel toast setting. My favorite one is the pizza setting.
Wait, you can put pizza in yours?
Yeah.
Is yours like the toaster oven kind, or is it like...
Is it like big?
It's actually pretty big. When we got it, we put it on the counter. We're like, okay, let's get rid of our oven then maybe. It's pretty big.
My wife is like, you can get one, but it has to be very, very like small and tidy on my counters. And so I got the smallest one I possibly could. You can put like 2 chicken breasts in there maybe. It's not,
That's exactly what my wife said. But I played that's what it said online. And then when it got here, I was like, it's too late. Sorry. And now she's as attached to it as I am. So
I know, that's
here
the thing.
we are.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to bake in it?
Yes. Last night, actually.
like cookies,
after soccer.
maybe buns?
Buns
I think you steam buns, but
in the
we can
oven.
try.
You can steam buns.
Well, yeah.
No, it doesn't.
We got to be careful here. Okay, moving on. I'll do introductions. I'm Jamin Holmgren, your host and friendly CTO of Infinite Red. I live in the beautiful Pacific Northwest with my wife and 4 kids. I've been playing some recreational hockey lately, which is a lot of fun. I normally drive my tractor around whenever I get an excuse to, but right now it's actually up on blocks. That's a story for another day. I am joined today by my, get ready for this, bunbelievable co-hosts, Robin and Mazen. Robin is the Director of Engineering at Infinite Red. She's located west of Portland, Oregon with her husband and 2 kids and has specialized in React Native for the past 6 years.
Wow.
That's wild. Mazen Chami lives in Durham, North Carolina with his wife and little boy. He's a former pro soccer player and coach and is a senior React Native engineer also here at Infinite Red. And I do want to mention that this episode is sponsored, as always, by Infinite Red. Infinite Red is a premier React Native consultancy located fully remote in the US and Canada. If you're looking for React Native expertise for your next project, hit us up at infinite.red/React Native. And don't forget to mention that you heard about us through the React Native Radio podcast. All right, let's get into our topic because we have a bunch of stuff we want to talk about here. The topic is, I don't know if this is the final title, but what I have in my notes is Bun Intended. JavaScript's newest runtime meets React Native. And really what we're going to be talking about here is everything that you need to know as a React Native developer about Bun. We're not going to go into all of the different specifics of why Bun might be an option to replace Node in, your backend or anything like that. This is really specifically about Bun and React Native.
And we promise bun puns all throughout today's episode. You will not be disappointed.
We have lots of them in store for you. They're all currently in the oven, though. All right, so 1.0 came out recently. It's currently October 2023. And 1.0 came out a couple months ago, and it made a big splash. And so immediately we started thinking, like, how could we use this new technology with React Native? And so what are some of the key questions that we want to answer? Mazen, what do you want to have answered by the end of this episode?
I want to know what parts of React Native can be replaced by it. Because I think one major thing, like off the bat, and just all the buzz around it, is it's fast. I think, one thing that I've mentioned a couple times on the podcast is recently I've been living in the native world, and we're a little bit spoiled in React Native because of how fast we kind of get to see things. I know one big thing was I showed a native dev for the first time, like how Metro in an app will update once you make a change to your text, for example, and you get to see it on both your iOS and Android simulators and emulator. And they were like, okay, when do we build? And I was like, nope, we're done. We just saved and take a look at your simulator and emulator. And they were like, but wait, what's happened? And they didn't know what to say at the moment. They're like, they right away reached to kill Metro and restart it and then reinstall the app. And I was like, nope, you're done. So we're spoiled in that regard, but the speeds that I'm hearing about are super fast. So I think if it can help speed up, whether it's testing, whether it's maybe bundling or installing packages or whatever it may be, I'd like to learn more about all that at the end of the day.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I think that there's some interesting things it could help us with right away. And then there's some things that are pretty long term. One thing that I think is cool is that the creator of Bun, Jared Sumner, did React Native before. Like, that was one of the things he did. And so he does have his eye on the React Native ecosystem, unlike, maybe the core team at Node. They're not really React Native developers. They're not mobile engineers. They're really back-end or tooling engineers.
It's a very new tool, and they have the ability to start from scratch, I guess, when they were building Bun 1.0. The Node team, they're great at what they do at the end of the day, but their tech's been around for how long? And as we all know, you incur tech debt, and then as the ecosystem changes, you're always adding and iterating and backwards and all that. So Bun has that going for them right now because they're brand new, and it seems like they made some great architectural decisions early. And I honestly think if the Node team were to just press stop and start all over again, they could probably achieve something very similar, but it's just, I don't think it's feasible for them at this point.
Yeah, I should say Bun has the advantage of basically seeing what's happened to the JavaScript ecosystem over the past, 10, 15 years, and identifying like, okay, we've seen how this has gone, and we're going to make a thing that does all that meets all the needs that JavaScript developers have today versus Node, which has evolved and sort of been Frankenstein a little bit to meet all the needs of the changing JavaScript ecosystem. And so it's really cool to see this.
They did a wonderful job, if you ask me.
I didn't even see that coming. So first off, we have to talk about what Bun is. And the way that they talk about it on their website is develop, test, run, and bundle JavaScript and TypeScript projects all within Bun. Bun is an all-in-one JavaScript runtime, which we're going to talk about what a runtime is.
Or bun time. They really missed that opportunity.
Oh, I think they heard from the community on that one, but just decided not to do it. And Toolkit, designed for speed, complete with a bundler, which is in itself already a pun, Test Runner, and Node.js compatible package manager. So we'll talk about all those things.
First, I want to ask for the audience, and also maybe secretly for myself. I keep hearing people talk about this as a JavaScript runtime. What is a JavaScript runtime?
It's like anything in programming, it's one of those things that it depends on who you ask and what context they're in and that sort of thing. But we're going to act very authoritative here. So it's it comes across like we actually know what we're talking about. But it is really fuzzy. There's an engine. There's like a JavaScript engine. And then there's the runtime. And Jared Sumner actually explained it in a Twitter thread that the engine is the implementation of the language, the thing that's actually running.
It's what takes the JavaScript and makes it machine code, like runnable by your computer.
Right. Yeah. It's the interpreter. It interprets it. It runs it. And then the runtime itself is a set of APIs on top that make it more useful. So, for example, you can use JavaScript core, which is what Bun is using under the hood. Or you can use V8. That's what Chrome uses. That's what Node uses without Bun or Node or Chrome or whatever. And it would execute JavaScript and it would import modules and it would handle all those things. But you wouldn't be able to like write to the file system. You wouldn't be able to send HTTP requests. You wouldn't be able to start a server. So those are like the all the APIs around it. And actually React Native itself is sort of a runtime because of all the things it wraps around JavaScript core. So you could think of Bun in a similar aspect as React Native in some ways. So let's talk about all the things that Bun says that it does, and then talk about how that relates to React Native itself. First off, and I'm going to try to start with like the easiest thing, the most like straightforward path to adoption. Package manager. We're talking about npm install. We're talking about yarn. We're talking about those type pnpm. We're talking about those types of things. And everybody, when they try Bun install, is blown away by how fast it is. It downloads and installs your packages into your Node modules folder incredibly quickly.
I've heard repeatedly that people didn't even know that they were like still waiting for it to, they didn't realize it finished because it was so instantaneous.
I was one of those people. I ran it and then I was like, oh, it must have already been installed, like Node module. I must have forgotten to delete it. So I went and I removed the Node modules folder and ran it again. And I was like, wait, what? all the packages are there. How's that possible? Like, it's just instantaneous. I actually had a situation where I was testing it against Yarn version 1, and I ran Yarn and it was about 11 seconds. And then I ran Bun install and it was about 11 seconds. And I was like, oh, there's no benefit there. But then I realized that I ran Yarn with all of the caching and a lock file. And I ran Bun with no caching and no lock file. So then I ran it again with caching and lock file, and Bun was about, I think, under 2 seconds, something like that. Wow. And Yarn was still 11 seconds with all of those benefits. Now that's version 1. Obviously, the Yarn has progressed. There's things like PNPM, which also have speed. But the nice thing about how Bun does it is that it has all the compatibility that like Yarn version 1 has. So it actually just copies the files into your Node modules rather than trying to create symlinks and things like that PNPM or Yarn version 3 do, which we know in the React Native world, it doesn't work so well. It's very Bun fortunate.
I wonder if we're going to be able to get through this episode with
no laughs.
All these puns.
No.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned to me at the beginning of this episode, Jamin, was it doesn't do something similar like the Yarn lock file or package lock file. It's now a lock B, so that's a binary file. So bun.lockb.
That's one of the reasons that it's so fast, is because it's not reading and parsing a YAML or a JSON file.
Yeah. The downside, of course, is it's not human readable. You can output a yarn.lock, so you can read sort of what you're used to, like what changed.
Which I think is important, honestly. I check the yarn lock on occasion to sort of see, like, okay, what version has actually been installed. But I'm sure there's commands and stuff that will help you do that with Bun.
They do have a command. I'm not exactly sure, but I think they have a command to let you see, like, to be able to read that file, even though it's not readable, like something to output. Yeah. It's like a diff or something it lets you do.
Which could be helpful because sometimes when you're contributing to projects with other people, like merge conflicts are already not super fun to resolve in a yarn lock. I can imagine in a binary that's going to be even more painful.
What are the steps, Jamin, to use Bun? Like if I have Yarn right now and I want to switch over to Bun on my project, what do I do?
Yeah, for React Native, it could be as easily, I mean, I've done this, as just delete your yarn.lock or your package lock JSON and your node modules folders, and then you just run bun install or bun I and see if it works. Like try to run it and see if everything works. There can be some issues though, because I know, Robin, you've run into this with your own project.
Yeah, there can be some issues. One, I was going to say, do they still call it node module? Even though it's not Node?
Yes, they do. They install it into the not very well named node underscore modules folder that we're all very used to, because it could be not Node and they could not be modules. Like
Node is going to be the Kleenex and Band-Aid of JavaScript.
That's exactly right. But that's where they go. There's no weird location. All of your tools work just how you would expect them to.
Like you mentioned, though, there might be some caveats. If you're using a private NPM registry, there isn't support for that quite yet. They are working on it, though. That's one of the things that's stopping me from using Bun in my current project is that we have some private registries.
Same on mine.
With the speed of how they're releasing features, it wouldn't surprise me if they had that out by the time this episode releases. So you'd have to go and look. But I know that is one of the top priorities. I think they have a few different priorities that they're working on right now. But one of them is definitely private registries.
Yeah, I would say the majority of the bigger, more enterprise projects that I'd worked on have private registries in some form.
The main difference that you would notice is obviously the install speed, but also the fact that instead of running like yarn build or yarn run, compile or something like that, you would do bun run compile, bun run.
Now, is that a 5K or a
Yes.
10K bun run? Turkey trot?
Yeah, I guess we're getting closer to Thanksgiving here. There's plenty of buns, plenty of
buns, plenty of bun runs.
For this one, I saw a GIF that they posted of like ASCII art, the cow says hi thing and flashes sort of thing. When they ran it, to run a script, bun run, you run your script, so to like display the ASCII art, and then to run it in bun, you do bun run dash bun your script to display it. It's like bun.
I don't know how anyone takes themselves seriously with this.
It was very fast.
Yeah.
Like when you would run the bun run your node. So when you're running it in node, let's say, you would see like a pause and then a display on the screen. But when you did the bun run, it's like right away.
Yeah.
Like as you pressed enter, it was like on the screen. So not only is the install speeds carrying over here, you see it significantly.
So as a script runner, bun run will respect whatever the file, like the script, wants to be run in. So if you did like bun run TSC, for example, like for TypeScript specifies at the top of their binary that they're going to be run in Node. So it is going to spin up Node and it's going to run TypeScript in Node. And then as Mazen was mentioning there, if you do bun run dash bun and then TSC, then it will try to run it in bun. But a lot of these scripts aren't tuned to work with bun, and bun doesn't have full support yet. Like it's not quite there. So some of them will just crash. So as an example, I wanted to run bun run semantic release because I use semantic release for a lot of our packages, and it didn't work. It said, hey, you need a higher version of Node. And when I looked at the version of Node that bun reports itself as, because it has to say that, because like there are a lot of packages that say, what version of Node are you? And it has to report something. It can't just say, well, I'm, bun 1.0.4 or whatever, because it would be like, oh, that's way too old of a Node version. It doesn't understand that there's a bun. So it reports itself as like 18 point something, 18.15 or something like that. Well, semantic release was saying that I needed 18.17 or something along those lines. And it, so then I ended up actually for my CI, like patching semantic release to accept the version that I wanted, the bun, and then it worked fine. Like it actually ran just fine. There's no problem. It was really fast. Semantic release was super fast. I submitted a PR to semantic release to be like, hey, we need to support, bun here because it works fine. Everything I've seen. And they said, well, we're worried that bun won't, like we'll get a bunch of bun related issues, and I can't say bun related. Everything just sounds like
or
a pun.
bun related. What are we talking about?
Bun dash related.
Got it.
Issues, and we don't want to have to support that. And then Jared Sumner actually chimed in and said, hey, our plan is to support everything that Node does, so it should just work out of the box. What I'm going to do is bump our internally reported Node version so that it works with semantic release, which is cool. So in some cases it works fine, but then in other cases, like you try to run it, I haven't tried it actually with TypeScript, but if you were to run it with TSC, I bet it probably would blow up. There'd probably be something that doesn't quite work right. And so the answer to, can you use it as a script runner? Well, you can if it ends up just being Node under the hood. You're not going to get much, really nothing. If you try to run it with bun run dash bun and then the script name, then it's just, it depends. It depends on the script that
You get a little bit of speed improvement though if you're running it Even if you're still running it with Jest or TSE or whatever it is you're running, if you're doing bun run instead of yarn run, you are getting a little bit of speed savings, I think.
Yeah, there's a little bit there for sure.
That whole script of the cow says hi that I mentioned earlier, if you run it in Node, it's 25.1 milliseconds. If you run it in bun run bun, it's 5.2 milliseconds.
Yeah.
So significant, if we're talking about time here, that's a significant jump in time.
Yeah.
And one note I want to say is I started working on a side project, just something to play around with Bun. And it is a CLI library like GlueGun, which we use for Ignite and whatnot. And the tests all run in like 20 milliseconds. It's just incredible. And I can run the CLI itself in just a blink of an eye. So the speed is just absolutely unbelievable compared to GlueGun.
That's wonderful.
But oh geez. Let's move on. Okay. Also, then I mentioned tests. I mentioned tests. So it can be used as a test runner. It has a Jest compatible library built into it called bun::test. And it's really cool. And I am using it for my CLI library, but for React Native, we did test it before this episode. It doesn't look like it quite works because like for our Jest setup, or for really any Jest setup, I think we just use React Native init. It relies on using the Jest preset React Native, which Bun doesn't support that out of the box. So with some work, it could maybe get there. But what happens is it encounters some flow and it doesn't know how to deal with flow. Like it can interpret TypeScript, no problem. It can interpret JavaScript, no problem. But when it touches flow, it's like, oh, I don't know the syntax.
You could use it as a drop-in replacement for Jest in lots of other JavaScript projects. If you have modules or utilities or node servers, or there's a lot of applications where it could be a drop-in replacement, but probably not React Native yet.
Yeah, and I think that there might actually be some other issues too. It's not just the flow stuff. Now, I did notice there's an ongoing discussion about making it more compatible with, things like maybe using Hermes to strip the flow types and stuff. That would require that Bun integrates Bun FFI in order to call out to Hermes. There's a few other interesting things, but so with some work, I think that Bun could conceivably be our test runner rather than Jest. And I know that it's way faster than Jest, way faster. So that would be really cool, but it's probably a ways out before we can do that.
What about Babel, like a transpiler? Is that possible with Bun?
So in terms of React Native, I don't think so. Because like Metro uses Babel to transpile and do some things. And Babel goes way back. Like you can transpile way back. And like, for example, Hermes doesn't support class syntax in JavaScript. It eventually will, like they're working on that, but it doesn't right now. So that means that Babel is having to transpile all the way back to ES5, and Bun doesn't have that built in. And I don't think that they plan to support that. Like they wouldn't go that far back. Like Node has had class syntax or class support for a long time. And, obviously Bun does as well. So Hermes not having that capability built in yet does kind of stop us from using it as a transpiler.
So it kind of sounds like we're getting to the edge of Bun supporting React Native
Really?
so far.
That's really Bun fortunate. I know we've used that one already.
We used that one already. Yes, it's all Bun supported. So the last one that I think is really interesting here is actually using it as a full Metro replacement, like a bundler. That's a bundler. So Metro, of course, you can replace it. There are some alternatives out there. For example, if you want to use Webpack, you can use Repack by Callstack. And that is where you get the full, experience of Webpack, but you also have everything you need in order to support, what Metro supports. And there's a lot of different things that need to happen there. Evan Bacon has done some experimentation with ES Build, which is very fast. And he actually posted on an issue on Bun, issue 123, and had a long post about all the things that Bun would need to support in order to make it like a Metro replacement. One thing that I think is really cool is that like Jared used to do React Native, the creator of Bun. So that would be something that is on his radar, and he would like to actually support React Native eventually as a Metro replacement. And Metro is very cool and very fast, but having something incredibly fast like Bun and built for speed would be very interesting. I think that with some work, it could get there. And I think that we'd be better off as a community if we had an alternative like that.
Because right now it's one solution or not. And I feel like sometimes when I go into some client discoveries, they're like, okay, let's talk about React Native in general. Like, what do we do? And sometimes the web people come on board and like, okay, yeah, we use Webpack on the web. Insert your thoughts on Webpack here. They usually don't like it. And they're like, what's the alternative? What does React Native do? And I'm like, Metro. I'm like, okay, is there another alternative? And usually, the answer is no, really. We mentioned Webpack and Repack, but having something like Bun that you could be like, well, the benchmarks show that it's much quicker, improving speed and all that. And then you also bring in the testing and the installation. It just, everything kind of is in its favor to help improve React Native.
Yeah, having a unified tool would be really nice because it feels like we're reaching for so many different tools to do just this basic stuff. It would be really nice if it was all built in. So I want to ask and have a discussion around why Bun is so much faster than Node. So one of the things is that Bun uses JavaScript core under the hood rather than V8. Now, V8 is incredibly fast. Like it does have some amazing stuff built into it. But JavaScript core does outperform V8 at certain things, like, for example, regular expressions, setting properties, some like string related tasks. V8 is better at things like array access, promises, things like that. So it depends on what benchmarks you're looking at. They also tend to, as time goes on, kind of pass each other up and compete. But JavaScript core is actually really quite fast. It obviously didn't quite fit the profile we wanted for React Native, which is why Hermes exists. Also, it's kind of interesting. He considered Hermes, but because Hermes doesn't have a JIT, it doesn't have a just-in-time compiler, it didn't do well enough for things like long-running tasks, like server situations and whatnot. For like a CLI, it'd probably be great. But for just long-running tasks and it's going to get faster if it has a JIT rather than ahead-of-time compilation. So that's part of it. It's also written in Zig, which is sort of a low-level language. It's a replacement for C++, more or less. C++ is also very fast, and that's what Node is written in. So it's not like you're really gaining a lot just by writing it in Zig. You're mainly gaining in, hopefully, like developer experience, because Zig is a more modern language than C++. But they're both very, very, very fast.
I hadn't heard of Zig until today.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And I would say that in the C++ community, Zig is sort of looked at as kind of like a successor to C++ and regarded very favorably. But it is still fairly new.
You don't really think of like new low-level languages coming out. Usually low-level languages are like super old, have been around forever. I didn't know that people were out there making new ones.
Right.
All C languages just seem so established and around forever.
Yeah, people want the ergonomics of modern languages and modern features without all the bloat that comes with having, a language that's been around for so long. And something like C++ has just so much surface area. It's really hard to really learn it. But really, the performance gains that Bun has, in my opinion, is just because Jared and the team there at Oven, which I think is the name of their company.
Like, they're asking for the puns if they named their company Oven to create a product called Bun. Like,
exactly. And their logo, by the way, is like a bunny. So it's a different vector of puns. But Jared and company spent over 2 years just making it fast. So I found a tweet from like May of 2021 that he's talking about making it 4% faster because of a change that he made in how, he set up arrays so that there wasn't like pointer invalidation and whatnot. That's really how you make something fast. You put a lot of time into it.
Basically, if you make something fast by trying to make it fast.
Exactly. I used to think that there was something inherent about C++ that made it fast. No, it was because there were a lot of companies that were very invested in making it fast. And so they poured thousands of engineering hours into making it fast. And that's why it's fast. Any other language, you look at something like Ruby and you're like, oh, Ruby could never be fast. Well, if you spent as much time as they did with C++, you could make it fast. Like, all of these things are possible. It's just people spending the time to eke out another 4%, all across the board. And that's what they've done. So that's why it's so fast. You could do that with Node, but Node is a lot further behind. They don't have the culture of speed. Like, that's not the most important thing. Like with Bun, speed is everything. Like, it's got to be really, really, really fast. And so they spend a lot of time on it. So Node would have to change their culture, and then they would have to put in a lot of time.
Yeah.
It could happen, but they're also Bun is continuing to get faster too. We should really quickly wrap up. We're long enough on this episode. I do want to mention that Bun is supported as a package manager with Ignite version 9, which is out now. So you can choose Bun as your package manager and then use Bun install and whatnot for your new React Native app.
We should mention it's not fully supported on Windows yet.
That's right.
So if you're
using Windows, there's some issues.
Yeah.
It's experimental, right? As of now.
Yeah, they are working on it, but it's going to be a little while. And long term, people will wonder, like, how is Bun supported? Well, they got like 7 million in funding. They want to provide the toolkit, but then also do hosting like Vercel. And before you think, oh, this is like a Vercel competitor, actually, the CEO and founder of Vercel is one of the investors that gave them the 7 million. So he seems to believe in Bun and what they can do. So I'd imagine that's the direction they're going to go. Probably React Native is lower on that list in terms of monetization, but it doesn't seem to be the only way that they make decisions. They seem to make decisions based on what's good for the community, which I like. And I mean, at the end of the day, using things like Node.js, Jest, Webpack, ESBuild, Babel, Yarn, all of these tools, you could just replace them all with Bun. And it would just be one size fits all.
That's the dream.
It is. All right, let's wrap up. If you'd like to nerd out more about React Native, you can join our Slack community at community.infinite.red. We have over 2,000 React Native developers. I think it's closer to 2,500 now. It's quite a few in that Slack. And where can people find you, Robin?
I'm, as always, at Ramad_Hines with an E at the end on Twitter, X. I don't know what to call it anymore.
Nobody does. It's X Twitter, called X, I guess. Mazen, where you at?
At Mazen Chami, one word.
You can find me at Jamin Holmgren. You can find React Native Radio at React Native RDIO. As always, thanks to our producer and editor, Todd Worth, our assistant editor and episode release coordinator, Jed Bartoski, our director of communications, Justin Husky, and our guest coordinator, Derek Greenberg. Thanks to our sponsor, Infinite Red. Check us out at infinite.red/React Native. And a special thanks to all of you listening today. Make sure to subscribe wherever you are. We are React Native Radio. Robin, we've had way too many puns in this episode, but
got one more.
You have one more. I was hoping you wouldn't.
Why did the bun go to school?
Why?
To get a butter education.
Okay, we'll see you all next time.
Bon voyage.